Latin America is a really interesting opportunity for internationalizers, people who are interested in geo-arbitrage. With the same amount of income, you've gone from saving $500 a month to saving $7K per month. You've just 14x'd your savings on the same amount of income. I read Before Our Work Week a long time ago, and I was always kind of working towards having location independence and having that freedom.
All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm here with Brandon, actually a Canadian in Lisbon. I'm very excited to meet you again, actually, here and to have this conversation with you.
Thanks for having me.
So I would like to start with one question. You are one of those accounts. Actually, we met online on X, as with many people in this field or in this vertical, and you have a fantastic, actually, account that I invite everyone to follow. Is My Latin Life, and as anyone can imagine, essentially, you focused on South America as a
Latin America
in general. And my first question is, what's your personal story? How did you get into this field, and how did all of this started?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Long story short, I kind of started with citizenship by descent for my family. I got Italian passport, much like yourself. So I got that by descent from my great-grandparents before they changed the rule. And, I did all the collecting the documents for 4 generations and everything. Also helped my family get Irish passports, and then we're Canadian-American dual citizens as well. So kind of 4 passports in my humble household in Canada. And my parents really didn't see the value in it, so I had to go out and do the citizenship by descent stuff by myself. And then that kind of puts you on these, like years ago, this would put you on these forums like Sovereign Man and Escape Artist and things like that, some of the early guys like 10 years ago. And then that kind of led to learning a bit about the residencies that were out there. And then I did Paraguay residency in 2018, 2019. And after that, did Mexico and then did Panama and kind of caught the bug. And then, eventually started helping people.
That's great, and I think this is the story of many who probably start looking into this field for themselves, and then step by step they start offering these services. And I'm so happy to have you here because Latin America in general is probably the geographical area that I'm less prepared about. Of course, I write about it, I study about it, but I'm so curious because there are plenty of great options. I think. Would you agree with me in the sense of, is Paraguay still the king among these options? Perhaps?
Well, it depends what your goals are, but as a Plan B residency, it's definitely one of the best. As a tax residency, it's definitely one of the best.
And in general, say that you are talking with an American citizen or perhaps even a European, how would you present the different opportunities of Latin America? Let's start with the residencies, essentially. What is the kind of options? What is the most valuable right now?
Yeah, so Latin America is a really interesting opportunity for internationalizers, people who are interested in geo-arbitrage and, having residencies or citizenships from multiple countries. Where Latin America really shines, I think, is in the residencies and then also in the tax residencies, because a lot of the countries are territorial tax countries that don't tax foreign income. So it's quite unique that you have this region with like almost 10 territorial tax countries, and pretty much every country in Latin America is very open to immigration. And so they have a lot of different, different programs or ways to qualify for residency.
I see, and that's something that I spend much more time on the Asian side of the world, Middle East, and I always, appreciated this model because let's, state is the basics for anyone maybe not so familiar with these terms. Essentially, extraterritorial systems means, territorial tax systems means that for any foreign income, there is 0 taxation. So if you are a resident in Paraguay, you're not going to pay 1 cent of dollar unless the income is generated in loco, right? Inland.
Yeah, so, not every territorial tax country is the same, or, people usually have this sort of blanket statement or this idea that Paraguay's territorial tax system is the same as the Dominican Republic's, which is the same as Costa Rica's. Sometimes it gets a bit more nuanced in terms of like capital gains tax, or, sometimes it's not a blanket 0 tax on anything foreign. So it kind of, every country is a little bit different. But yeah, at a high level, you have 4 main tax systems in the world. You have citizenship-based taxation, you have residency-based taxation, you have territorial taxation, right? And in my mind, if you could be a tax resident of any structure of tax system, the best one is a territorial tax system where you're only taxed on local sourced income, and then your foreign sourced income is usually untaxed, which is really great for people who run online businesses or for people with a lot of capital gains. So it can work for a lot of different types of people.
That's great. And among these systems, do you want to mention a few? And why in these conversations, always Paraguay comes into place, but also Dominican Republic for a certain extent. I'm Costa Rica, I guess, but I'm not specialist on these items. Typically, which are the options that you can look into if you look for
territorial tax systems specifically? The most of them are in Central America, believe it or not. So basically, like every single country in Central America is a tax haven or is a territorial tax country. Mm-hmm. So everything south of Mexico, so you have Belize, you have Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama. El Salvador is the one that's has the most rules of all of them. But then all the other Central American countries, Nicaragua, it's basically zero tax on foreign income. So that's where most of them are. You do have a couple in South America and other places. You have Paraguay, mm-hmm. Uruguay, Ecuador. So there are a couple other ones, but Central America is kind of underrated. How that the entire region there is basically territorial tax systems.
That's cool. And when it comes to deciding where to relocate, where to acquire residencies in Latin America, what's typically the thinking process and the overall how do people decide? Because for Europe I could talk for literally hours, but I am super curious because I had mm-hmm. friends actually who lived in Panama, friends who lived in Guatemala. I remember one guy invested in apartments in Guatemala for mm-hmm. some reasons. Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, crypto folks, from the US for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But I don't have clarity about what do you advise usually to your clients? How do they decide?
Yeah, how to decide when there's so many options. I think it depends on a couple things. One is family size. Or party size, age, the decision-making framework is going to be very different for like a 20-year-old digital nomad versus a 40-year-old with a family versus a 60-year-old mm-hmm. retiree. So, what's best for retirees? Usually there's overlap, but it might be slightly different. What's best for a retiree versus an expat family versus a digital nomad? And then the other thing to consider is it more of a plan A or a plan B? Are you looking to physically relocate? Are you looking to, spend less than 6 months per year in your home country? Mm-hmm. Or is it more of like a plan B, sort of a back pocket residency?
I see. So the first probably decision in that case is, okay, plan A or plan B. Okay, say that we are into the plan A. So I want to relocate. Mm-hmm. Which options do you think would be very interesting to consider?
Yeah, I mean, if you're down for relocation, you have a lot of options available to you, right? So if you're down for full relocation and spending the majority of the year outside your home country, that's what's going to unlock the most sort of tax benefits on your where you come from in terms of being able to leave the tax system of a high tax country. So if you're coming from Canada or you're coming from Italy and you move to Latin America, you can leave your high tax country's tax system, come down to Latin America where it's 0% tax on foreign income, and then maybe you run your business internationally via, the US, Hong Kong, Dubai, whatever, and then you can sort of live tax-free in Latin America in a lot of cases. In terms of what's the best, I need a little bit more, but kind of what's popular right now is for tax residency would be Paraguay. Mm-hmm. Although it's maybe not the most livable country, how it's landlocked and everything. So if you're down to spend the majority of the year in that Latin American country, maybe something like Panama or Costa Rica, something on the ocean might be a little bit more livable.
I heard consistently very good things about Panama. I confess I've never been there, but I apparently there are 3-5 so many reasons why it could be a winning choice. I'm not sure, is it something that it happened to you to work on for some clients or not yet? Panama specifically? Or?
Yeah, I have Panama permanent residency
okay.
myself, so
Okay.
I know the program pretty well, having gone through it. What's actually exciting right now in Panama is it seems that they're going to be opening the books to naturalizing people for citizenship. For many years, it was understood that Panama, they just weren't naturalizing people. Like even if you'd been there for like 10 years, you built a life there, you got kids in school there, they still weren't really naturalizing foreigners. And what we're hearing now is there's been a turnover and a new president. And what we're hearing now is they're starting to finally naturalize people. So that's a good thing for people who want to be a resident of Panama, is knowing that there's a potential path to citizenship.
Absolutely. And touching on this point, I mean, typically for looking at citizenship pathways, do you also help clients in achieving new citizenships by descent you mentioned? So I guess also, what are the best pathways for citizenship in South America right now?
Best pathways for citizenship in South America. So, of course, that in general, there's a couple different pathways to citizenship. There's, citizenship by investment. There's citizenship by descent. There's citizenship via naturalization, where you live somewhere for a number of years. There's citizenship by marriage, which also usually involves a physical presence requirement. So there's a couple different pathways. The funny thing about Latin America is not every country is like the best. It's not the most guaranteed path to citizenship in Latin America. Mm-hmm. What Latin America does really well is residency, permanent residency, tax residency. Citizenship, your mileage kind of varies. Typically you'll need to pass a Spanish language test, a history test, like a civics test. There'll be physical presence requirements that's different for every country. So I can tell you which countries are issuing the passport if you meet the requirements, which ones are not. There's also issues of renunciation. So overall, it's not there are passports that you can get in Latin America, but you definitely have to be strategic about it.
Definitely. And because eventually, I think, what's your take on the potential future Argentina CBI? Because it's quite an hot topic right now. It's not yet there.
It seems like it's going to happen. I mean, the U.S., maybe you saw the Argentina, they just got visa-free U.S. Basically yesterday, or I don't know if it's official yet, but they're starting the process. So I think that's historically been one of the big concerns regarding Argentina's CBI program, is they have to do it in consultation with the U.S., because the U.S. Doesn't really like CBI programs. And, maybe you saw a month or two ago that they put up the expanded travel list or travel ban list in the U.S., and they added 30, 32 countries to that list. And every CBI country, of which there's 15, 16, every single one was on that travel ban list except for Grenada. And so, that's obviously a pattern. Grenada managed to escape it because of historical ties to the U.S., and that's its own side thing. But basically, Argentina they're only going to launch a CBI if they can do it sort of with the blessing of the United States, and that it won't affect their ESTA visa waiver privileges in the U.S. But I think it is supposed to happen.
I think that as well, and probably is going to be perhaps maybe the premier option for South America. We don't know how it will work, right? We don't know the details, but apparently it's going to be $500K, and we don't know actually the specifics.
Yeah.
But
I'm told it's going to be an investment, not a donation.
Yeah,
which is good. Most people don't want to donate $500K, but
I'm a great fan of.
But if it would basically become the most popular CBI program, most probably. For context, right now you have Turkey, which is you buy $400,000 in real estate, you get a Turkish passport, and that's one of the more popular programs right now that's in a quote-unquote real country, a country that's not an island. And then Argentina is arguably a better passport than Turkey, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be pretty competitive.
I definitely see this happening, and I'm super curious, and I mean, switching a bit to more kind of also personal choices and kind of your personal takes about different countries. Where did you live until now, and why you're in Lisbon?
Dude, I love Lisbon. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, for sure. We're recording this July, August. It's like 100 degrees outside. It's like 40 degrees Celsius. Um, but I love Lisbon. I spent a lot of time in Mexico, a lot of time in other places in Latin America. But I also have been traveling to Europe every year, basically since I became a digital nomad. So even when I started my digital nomad journey, actually, funny story is because I got my Italian passport around 2018, somewhere around there, when I started, and which was right when I started my digital nomad journey. So I kind of thought, oh yeah, I'll pop down to Mexico with my buddies for a couple months, and then I'll eventually make my way over to Italy. And I thought I would really start. It could have been my Italian life if it went another direction.
No, really.
And yeah, I thought I would, be learning Italian and stuff like that. But Mexico was just too fun, man. It was too fun, and I was like, okay, I can't go to Italy. Mexico's too fun.
Honestly, even my Italian life would, in my view, would be a blast. Everyone, because there is so much content and material and stories about Italy, and
sure.
the program is fairly good. Now
Yeah.
the descent. The acquisition of citizenship by the descent has been narrowed down severely, I would say. But there is still 250K options for investing in startups, 500K in companies. So the golden visa is still there. Of course, it's a residency only program. It's a pros and cons, but I could see this happening with my Italian life.
Yeah, there's lots of good Italian. I like Mambo Italiano on X.
I love it.
That one's a good one. Yeah, there's like unlimited content. It's such a big country.
Unlimited and when you came up with my Latin life out of curiosity, because I think from your perspective, so why did you leave Canada in first place out of curiosity?
Why'd I leave Canada? I guess escaping winter was the big thing, man.
Fair point,
dude.
Fair point.
it's real. I mean, it's like 6-7 months of winter, and the sun sets at 4:30 p.m. So kind of the average Canadian's life is they get up to go to work and it's dark outside, and then by the time they come home from work, it's already dark outside because the sun set at 4:30 p.m. So it's not really the best lifestyle. So I knew at very least I needed to be a snowbird, and at least go somewhere for the winter. And, I read the 4-Hour Work Week really early on. I read it before the 4-Hour the 4-Hour Body even came out. So I read the 4-Hour Work Week before the second book even came out. And I think the second book came out in like 2009. So I read the 4-Hour Work Week a long time ago. And, I was always kind of working towards having location independence and having that freedom.
I'm very curious. I think it's interesting because you can follow Brandon, or also known as Benz, on X. He has constant amazing takes, especially about South America, but not only. But I would be curious at this point to ask you one question that I frequently ask to people like you is, okay, besides eventually escaping winter, what was probably the trigger for you to go digital nomad, and what would be maybe the best advice for someone in 2025, maybe in his 20s, to start this journey? Because I think this is an interesting angle, right? He'll say that you can be American, Canadian, but say that there is someone like yourself, but in his 20s right now. Would you mind to share a bit of your experience and advices, what to do, and if there is any big mistake you have done that you would possibly not do it again eventually?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the advice part because otherwise I'll forget to come back around to it. So basically, advice to someone who wants to sort of start living a digital nomad type of lifestyle. Well, there's definitely a couple things. One is obviously you need a source of remote income, right? It doesn't take much, so I think it's really easy to get even just a crappy, low-paying remote job, even paying $2, $3, $4, $5 a month, even as like a virtual assistant or customer service rep or sales guy. Maybe you do 2-3 crappy jobs and like slap it all together to make 4 or 5K a month. It doesn't take much to live in Latin America, but you will want to have some sort of income source. I think the other thing is reducing your expenses back home. So getting rid of your apartment, getting rid of your car. You know, I had buddies that went home because they just, you know, they had a really expensive car. Like I had two buddies that had like really expensive cars. Like one had like, you know, this decked out Audi, you know, like the nice Audi, and he you know, he was traveling with me for a couple of months. He's like, bro, I just can't stop thinking about my car. I got to get back to my car. Yeah. So yeah, sell your car, reduce your expenses in your home country so you don't feel like you're paying double rent. That's another one I hear from people is they say, well, if I come hang out with you for a month, I'm paying rent back home in Toronto. I'm paying rent on the road, double rent. So yeah, you kind of got to get rid of everything and kind of burn the boats.
Which makes perfectly sense. Essentially, is bring to your burn rate to close to zero. This is also helpful, by the way, also for in general for tax reasons. You know, the least you have, the least there is an exposure. You know, for the local tax authority to claim. I don't know, whatever you have. At least this works for European authorities in general. So cut everything down, and I like this kind of mindset because it's true. From Anglo-Saxon countries, you can get a customer rep position for a few grand that, you know, you can virtually live very well in places even like Lisbon. If you have 3-4K per month, you can absolutely do extremely well. And that's partially similar to, you know, earn a US dollar, spend euro, live longer, that kind of story I was posting. But I completely get it. And do you think, so about your story, did you do anything that you would not do again eventually, in the sense of Mexico, yes, or another country, no, or I traveled too much, I traveled too little? Because everyone somehow has maybe some learnings, and I was just curious to learn yours, because again, you come from Canada, South America. It's an entire kind of line that for me it's it's the area in general I know the least, so worldwide. So that's why I'm super curious.
Yeah, things I would have done differently or regrets. I'd have to think about that. You know, everything's kind of worked out really well. I'd have to think about it for a second. I would say maybe getting started earlier. You know, when I got started in 2018, working remote. I mean, Skype didn't work very well back then. Like video calls did not work well. So it was kind of a whole different world. So when I got started, I basically taught myself how to code and became a software developer. I literally taught myself how to code to become a software developer to be remote, because I knew that was like kind of a guaranteed path to being remote. Now in 2025, you can be remote with no technical skills. You can do sales, you can do a million other things. So there was sort of like a different decision path back then than there is now. So yeah, people should be grateful that they don't have to learn how to code.
Absolutely. Actually, who knows? I mean, I think people will still need to learn how to code, but eventually, you know, most of the coding will be done by machines. So it will be probably more architecture and strategy. I read frequently one of your takes online that, in my view, it's super correct and super interesting, which is, the typical kind of, the balance sheet of a digital nomad. You earn, let's say, 10, you spend 3, and 7 are savings/investments. Can you expand a bit more on this?
Yeah, you might have to throw the tweet on the screen somehow. But let's just say that you're, let's just compare two people, right?
Absolutely.
Like someone that lives in a high tax country and someone that lives in a tax haven, and they both earn 10K. Now, the average guy who earns 10K probably pays $4,000, $4,500 in tax. And then they have, expensive lifestyle. And then, you're maybe saving $500,000 a month if you're lucky. For the average American, like you're saving $500 a month if you're lucky, right?
Absolutely.
So that same 10K for digital nomad, you pay no taxes, and then your cost of living is $2K, $2,500, $3K a month, and then your savings is $7K per month. So with the same amount of income, you've gone from saving $500 a month to saving $7K per month. You've just 14x'd your savings on the same amount of income.
Absolutely. No, for me, this is this is in general the game plan, in my view, that it's a winning one, and it can be applied to every kind of persona, right? Maybe there is the guy who is going to keep maybe working for a large company or for a large startup. There is the guy who is bootstrapping his own business, the indie hacker, the startupper trying to launch maybe different startups, and in the meantime earning 4, 5, 6, depending on the position. So it makes totally sense. And these also, well, in my view, this applies perfectly also to Europeans in general, with even one caveat, which is in the European case, the savings sometimes are even lower because you earn less and you spend, of course, you spend much less compared to New York eventually, but you still spend a lot. And in terms of lifestyle, out of curiosity, what are your favorite spots in South America?
Lifestyle South America. Before we move on to that, I wouldn't mind staying on the financial independence stuff a little bit, because I think it is like super, super important. Because, basically if you were saving $500 a month, it would take you 14 months to save $7K. So, when you it's so, if you look at one of those like Warren Buffett snowball exponential curves, like the more you can save, and, there are charts out there, There's a lot of overlap between the financial independence, retire early movement, the FIRE movement, and the sort of digital nomad expat movement. A lot of people kind of do both. There were a couple of people early on, like there was this one blog, Go Curry Cracker, that really laid out a lot of this stuff. But basically it's like if you, the more you increase your savings rate as a percentage of income, it really dramatically shortens your working lifespan or your path to retirement. Where it's like, if you save $500 a month, you basically have to work for 50 years. Like there's no, there's nothing you can do there. But if you can save, $7K a month or whatever it is, you've just shortened that timeline to get to financial freedom, which is different for everybody, but call it like, $2 million in assets or something. Like you just shorten that timeline a lot. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't go out and earn more money. Obviously, I understand that you can't save your way the Starbucks, save money on lattes and become a millionaire. I mean, obviously, you should increase your income too, and probably spend the majority of your time increasing your income, not trying to save money. But if you have a good structure, if you're in a zero tax country, if you're in a low cost of living place, that's super helpful. I think especially in the beginning of people's careers, when it's really important to get like that first nest egg of like 10, 20, 50K, just so you have like an emergency fund and, you're able to take time off, or you're able to, invest, or, that kind of thing. So I think being a digital nomad can help you get to that, emergency fund level faster as well.
100%. And then you can also unlock, of course, compounding value, right, on the investments if you buy ETFs or Bitcoin or so far and so on earlier. And 7K per month of savings, in my view, it's phenomenal, because in 1 year it's 84. And essentially you can go very fast.
You can buy a house every year, basically.
Exactly. Well, exactly. Well, maybe with mortgage, if we can get some financial leverage with local banking system, you can do it, and you can potentially rent it out. And I know a few people who did it well doing this at that scale. Did you convince your friend to sell the Audi that he bought? Because I think in any case you should not buy an Audi unless you.
You know what, man? One thing I've learned in this journey is like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I tried to lead by example for many, many years at this point. My Instagram stories, I'm in like a different place every day and this and that, and all you can do is really lead by example and kind of show, a potential path for people. But it blows my mind how few people, take it up on this, especially now that it's being a digital nomad or expat is like a pretty proven thing, and it's not as pioneering as it was 5 years ago, and like there's so many more people you can follow to get an idea of what it's going to look like. I just can't believe that more people aren't doing it, honestly.
I would say likewise. On the other hand, I have this kind of theory. I mean, at least one of, especially if you come from a large city, it can be a European city, an American city. Let's say you are from New York, Chicago, San Francisco, you are from Rome, Paris. Sometimes the environment absorbs you, but the same is Beijing, for example, in China. the environment absorbs you, and for people, sometimes it's very hard to go out. So I have friends of mine in Rome and we knew each other for almost 25 years. They wouldn't be able to do it because it's they grew up in a place and the environment keeps you in, and this kind of magnetism, it's very strong in non-Anglo-Saxon countries, because in general the culture is a bit more close, or the family component. Are you coming? May I ask you which is the city you are coming from? Canada?
What?
Which city are you coming from? Where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in Toronto.
Oh, in Toronto. So it's a big one, right? It's okay.
Yeah, I grew up, in the big city, a lot of opportunities, right? I just wanted, a bit more adventure, right? I wanted to do something more interesting.
Absolutely.
If I was 100% optimized for making money, I'd be in San Francisco. I have a U.S. passport. There's no reason I wouldn't be in San Francisco or Boston or New York, if anything, right? But I just wanted more adventure from than that. I actually did. I started my career in venture capital in Silicon Valley, and investing in early stage startups and stuff. So I've worked in banking, I've worked in finance, and kind of done the, check the boxes of like, the path, as it's called. But wanted to do something more interesting.
That's super interesting. Can I ask you, now that we are chatting, I'm coming up with so many questions, but trying to follow an order, which I can't guarantee, but just out of curiosity, you work in the VC space in finance. Have you ever launched a startup?
I've never launched a startup. I've worked for a couple of startups. I worked for a venture capital fund as like my what's it called? The internship before you graduate university. So like my third year internship, which is like a big one. And then so I worked at a VC firm in Silicon Valley. And then after I graduated, I worked for I worked in tech banking. So it's kind of banking meets tech. So like I know banking very well. I know, Silicon Valley stuff very well. And so those paths were both kind of open to me, and I guess I kind of chose like a third path, more I guess like sort of an offshoot of tech, but being a digital nomad and what we do now.
Oh, 100%. I was asking you this question because sometimes there is, for example, there is Peter levels, opinion like levels, opinion sometimes, and trajectory, which is essentially if you can have good profits every year, and then you reinvest those profits, over 10, 15 years, 20, they compound, versus, the startup journey where eventually you try to make it something big, you try to chase also the all VC financing game. And it seemed to me that your choice goes more towards, a very good service company that generates, wealth, and you can reinvest that wealth. So that was my kind of...
when remote, I was a software developer, right? So I was making like $150K.
Wow,
living in Mexico and stuff. And, I was laughing, right? So I didn't even want to start a company. It was too, life was good. But, obviously being a software developer, that job market has shifted, right? It's very, software developers are getting fired left and right. So kind of needed to adapt. And maybe that's a lesson for people out there is if you want to make money online, like you got to adapt, because what works now might not work in 3 years, that kind of thing. People who sell a course and then the funnel doesn't work as well anymore, right? You have to constantly adapt when you make money online.
100%. And from your perspective, how do you see this whole digital nomad movement eventually going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, probably something in the predictions of the sovereign individual, right? Where, companies are competing for talent globally. Countries are competing for talent, right? And when you have more of the workforce that's mobile and internationally mobile, countries really have to work to attract people and attract capital. So attracting both human capital as well as financial capital. So, there's it's hard to give like a good one-liner here. There's a lot of crazy stuff, but I think we're ahead of it. Like we're early adapters, early adopters. Sorry.
I totally agree. And I personally, I think. What do you think about the? I mean, what I was probably seeing 5 years ago was, eventually a preference from digital nomad for larger places, right? So you would have gone probably in Italy, in Rome or Milan. What I believe could be a reasonable output, maybe in 5 years, there is a kind of further arbitrage opportunity for digital nomads to pick a smaller place, like, for example, in Italy, Sicily, or here in Portugal, not necessarily Lisbon, or maybe Setúbal, and so far and so on. This could be maybe a kind of direction that could reshape also a bit how the whole movement has been done. So do you think, is this potentially something that is going to happen? Do you have any client already texting you from a 20,000 people village?
There's this one investing strategy in real estate, which is invest where the surfers go.
Oh, Erisera, it's true.
Because
it's true.
First you get the surfers, and then you get like the hippie chicks with, and then you get the trust fund people. And so it basically anywhere that surfers go kind of gets like built up. So you have like Playa Venao in Panama, you have Ericeira in Portugal, and Nazaré, and all the surfing spots around the world, right? They kind of get built up. So if you can just figure out where the surfers are going to go and buy some real estate there, you'll probably be good, as long as the wave doesn't change.
100%. In that case, you can still sell and then buy again in the next one. Absolutely. What about yourself? Do you see in the near future to be more in south of Europe? Any specific place in South America?
Well, yeah, I have, residency in like 5-6 countries and 3 passports, so I'm still pretty mobile. I try to, maintain a connection to Canada and the U.S. It's not like I hate my home country or something like that. I still love it. Obviously, it's got problems, but I still maintain a connection and spend some time there. And then, I spent a lot of time in Mexico, Paraguay, Portugal. So, that's kind of my circle of competence is North America, South America, and Europe. It's like a triangle.
That's amazing. And probably, zooming out, I would love to hear from you. I recently I spent a week in New York, and prior to that, a week in San Francisco, once again. And then I came back in Europe. I'm fresh from these kind of comparisons. And my kind of question is, from your perspective, US versus Europe in terms of business on one hand and lifestyle. What's your perspective? I mean, what do you notice every time you cross the border?
Obviously the lifestyle is superior in Europe. The food is superior. So, if you gave someone an option to make like maybe an equal amount of money in both, they would obviously choose Europe. That being said, the U.S. does have a lot of opportunities, and that's not going away. The only thing that's just crazy to me is the healthcare system in the U.S. and how if you go to the emergency room, you might end up with a $50,000 medical bill, and like you might go bankrupt, or at very least it's going to stress you the hell out. So just like not having to deal with that is, I think one of the, I don't know, like it's just you living in the U.S. and having that, it's sort of like a shoe that could drop at any time. It's insane.
It's a great actually thought. I've never considered it, and And on the other hand, there is an incredible grind and energy. So you can make money, you can build businesses, you can create organic value. But I completely agree with you. And in general, Brandon, when someone comes to you for assistance, how does it work typically? How do you work with people? What typically you assist them with? At which stage do you work alone? Do you have can you tell me a bit more about it? Because I am one of your avid readers online, but we haven't worked yet together, so I would love to hear more.
Sure. Well, I guess when people book a call with me, the first thing I want to do is kind of get an understanding of their situation. So their family size, what passports they have, what they're looking to do. Is it plan A, plan B, as we mentioned before? And just kind of get an understanding of what their goals are, and then kind of customizing things based on their goals. We get a lot of American clients, and those have to be treated a little bit differently than the Canadian and the European clients because of the citizenship-based taxation. And that always is has to be present in the plan. but yeah, it's pretty customized to everyone. I think one thing that's cool about covering all of Latin America is we're not biased towards any one country. Like we don't have to push any one country, and we're in a good place to sort of compare and contrast what makes the most sense for people.
100%. And the beauty, I think, of working with you is that you experience it on your own skin, all these movements from a North America perspective. So you actually obtained residences, you obtained second passports and so far and so on. So I think usually when because I don't do really consultancy. So in the end, for me, sometimes people ask me, for a recommendation and I introduce people to them. I really value the fact that someone has been through a certain process on his own skin, right? It's a different story, right? Otherwise, it's like selling you, third-party products, and so I think that's quite cool because in the end, these matters are personal, right? It's never just purely a financial decision. It's also family-based. There are so many elements in these choices. I mean,
I think the financial thing is actually lower on the list for most people. I think most people, it is about the freedom, and maybe like 2020 irked them the wrong way. And I think people at least realize to not be,
I agree.
That you don't want to be 100% dependent on any one jurisdiction, no matter how good of a jurisdiction it is. And I think people are kind of waking up to that. So we're seeing a huge increase in like citizenship by descent for maybe Americans that have like Latino ancestry. So we do like a lot of Mexican passports for Mexican Americans, for example. And we have cases going for pretty much every country in Latin America, like, Guatemalan Americans. And they kind of realize, it would actually be beneficial to get the Guatemalan passport, where they weren't really thinking that way 5 years ago. But now people are starting to get it.
Great stuff. Any other topic you would like to address today?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to.
If there is something we missed it, or maybe we want to double click on.
Latin America is a really big region, and I know everyone's focused on passports. I think with Latin America, you really do kind of have to commit to the country to get a passport. Like a lot of people are sort of looking for the holy grail, which is like a low physical presence passport with zero taxes along the way, and you do 1 day in the country and then you get a passport. It doesn't really exist like that unless you do citizenship by investment. There's no like holy grail country. So pretty much if you want the passport in Latin America, you are going to have to integrate and spend time on the ground, and probably spend the majority of the year there for a couple of years. Some of the fastest paths to citizenship in Latin America are Argentina, Dominican, and Peru are each a 2-year path to citizenship. And then there's a couple that are a 3-year path to citizenship, like Bolivia and Paraguay and maybe a couple others. And so on paper, the paths to citizenship are very fast, actually the fastest in the entire world. But there's also the processing time, and there's other considerations there. So it's like, it's best region in the world for residencies and tax residencies and geo-arbitrage. Passports, it's like you really kind of gotta commit. So it's like I think everybody should have multiple passports, and you kind of got to decide: can you maybe squeak one out from Latin America, or do you have to get it somewhere else? We see a lot of people that maybe they do a CBI in the Caribbean or Vanuatu or whatever, in combination with a LATAM residency.
That makes perfectly sense, and thank you so much, because again, for me it's all learning, and I actually have some cousins in Sao Paulo in Brazil, but I haven't spent enough time yet in Latin America. It's a great stuff.
What do you say? You have cows?
Cousins.
Cousins. Oh, okay, sorry. He's got cows. I thought it was gonna be like a ranch investment or something.
I have a story I will tell you later about. No, but I don't. I mean, it would be nice to have some some animals and farms around the world. But no, I do not until now, at least. No, I have some cousins who because I think. My grandmother had a sister, and her sister moved to Brazil at the early of the 20th century, and then some of the descendants essentially became they are Brazil Italians, and we visited them once 15 years ago, and it was so I have some very distant, I would say, family members there, and
That's
we here in Portugal we have continuous, contacts with Brazilians. But I haven't spent, for example, in Mexico. I confess, although I spent times in very small niche countries in Asia, but I haven't been. And everyone is so much in love with Mexico. It's a
Well, if you want to do one topic before wrapping up, do you know about the Panama-Italy treaty visa? Have you heard about this one?
No.
About how Italians can get immediate permanent residency in Panama?
Oh, no, because I never actually work with Italians, to be frank, besides like at least on the other side, like clients, because of what my
Right.
companies do. So, no, I'm super interested.
Okay, because you
What can
could
I get?
take advantage of this and maybe send Italian clients away or something. But I made some videos about this, but there's a very specific treaty between Panama and Italy. Okay,
Okay.
so only these two countries. It's a Panama-Italy treaty. And basically, you can get a direct or immediate permanent residency in Panama as an Italian under the treaty.
Okay.
The idea is that you're supposed to start a business,
business, yeah.
and so basically what you do is we spin up a Panamanian corporation. You also make a $5,000 bank deposit in Panama, which you can take out later after your residency is approved. And so that's basically it. $5K bank deposit, spin up a Panamanian company, and you, as an Italian citizen, can get permanent residency in Panama.
Oh, wow. So you are telling me that I'm an Italian. I deposit 5K that I can then reuse. We
Yeah.
spin off a Panamanian company, which is always useful, by the way, to have. Of course, Panamanian companies at 0% taxation. And I think, but okay, let's not go there, but there are advantages even if you want to do old crypto on the balance sheets and so far and so on. But the thing is, you immediately get the PR. So
Yeah.
if you leave Italy and you keep continuously moving around, so pure digital nomad lifestyle, technically you can file your taxes in Panama.
Well, legal residency and tax residency are two different things. So there's sort of a different standard to be considered a Panamanian
On the
tax
Panamanian
resident.
side, okay.
But you'll get legal residency at a bare minimum, and if you want to spend the time and meet the requirements, you could become a tax resident. But the legal residency, so basically, that's what I have. Is I did this because I used my Italian passport to get my Panama
Wow,
permanent
okay.
residency.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So I did this visa myself, and the only downside is you have to visit Panama one day every 2 years
Every 2 years, okay.
to keep it active.
And in case I want to also to gain tax residency on the Panamanian side, which are the requirements out of curiosity? I'm super
The
curious.
easiest way is spending the majority of the year in Panama, so 183 days.
Okay.
I think there's a way where you can do less days if you invest more in the country, like if you invest like 6 figures, or
Six
or you
figures,
or you
okay.
hire people and stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting. I will look into it because right now I'm in Portugal. I'm here with one of the special regimes, but I really literally, for various reasons, I'm always looking around, and also I have some legal structures here and there. So I've never been in Panama, but these alpha actually info, and I will tell this to many Italian friends because essentially it's also. Besides the service costs, the 5K can be redeemed. So in the end, it's really a cheap second at least legal residency that one day you could use. So I will look into it. I'm super interested in these topics, and I completely ignored about this treaty.
Yeah, man, I did it. So I just have to go to Panama one day every 2 years, keep it active. I have a driver's license from Panama, all that stuff. So someday, maybe I'll have you record an Italian video for my YouTube channel. Like Amici Italiani.
Quando vuoi, felicissimo. Especially because to give you an idea, to be frank, I learn English relatively late. So some days, maybe I'm very busy at work, and then I come here in the podcast studio without having time to maybe, prepare too much. And if I could speak Italian, it would be much more. So please use me as your Italian official translator if you want. You give me a script, 20 minutes of explanation. I will be very happy to give it. The only thing is that I think, from the Italian perspective, many Italians are looking in general for relocating somewhere in order to gain, tax benefits. So that's a bit the requirement.
Well, hey,
and
it could work for them.
probably-
USD.
Probably they would like even to. I
wanna
think
relocate.
relocate there, and at that point. I guess Paraguay is more lenient in terms of requirements for tax residency, and it's just a guess because it's not my specialty. And Dubai is always, in my view, many Italians, they move to the UAE in general. Why? Because it's also, lifestyle wise. We like it, and but I heard so many things positive about Panama. To be frank, even when I do posts online and the comments they always speak the truth. Because you always find the random guy who is super, specialized in the random niche and comes there and 20 lines of pure value. Look, in super interesting topics, and every time we expand them in details, I ask myself, if it's still even actual, the whole concept of borders and physical borders, right? Because what's the point anymore in the moment we can have a conversation, work, exchange value, money, and or information very well, on the internet. So, Brandon, it was such a lovely chat. I think we should also do a Twitter space together, just to maybe look into specific, topics. I think we should in general do more Twitter spaces or X spaces.
Sure.
Thank you so much, and lovely to have you in Portugal, actually.
Absolutely.